And we are live. Welcome to another fantastic wisdom circle. My name is Sophia from Sacred You, and we have the absolute honor of presenting these wisdom circles. And with us today are women from all different parts of the globe to chat about something that is close to my heart, and that is unburdening your heart, a healing journey towards joy. Joy, that's something that is the essence of life. For me, it's the purpose of life, is to experience joy. But I want to hand it over to the beautiful Dawn Jackson, who is our wonderful facilitator today. And Dawn, thank you so much for bringing in this wisdom circle today for Unburdening Your Heart. And let us know a little bit about you and why this topic before we introduce these amazing women who have joined us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia. I appreciate you having me here today and all of you women being a part of this conversation. I have been a nurse for over 30 years. I left nursing in 2022 to practice as a grief recovery method specialist because what I noticed in all of my patients is that when they were going through any type of significant loss, or change in their life, they were experiencing physical health issues. But we weren't addressing the emotional pain very often. Many times it was just, well, we're going to give you a medication or we're just going to send you to a therapist, but they weren't given other tools. And so I really, having gone through this program myself and healing so many things that had hurt my heart earlier in life, I knew that I wanted to help other people make these transformations and to thrive again. And so that's why I do what I do today. And I help mostly women, but also men just navigate any difficult changes, losses, grief in their life, and so that they can thrive again and experience joy. Because when our hearts are heavy, it keeps us from the joy that we so desire in our life. And so, with that, I want to have all of you introduce yourself as well. Sharon, do you want to go?
Sure. Thank you, Dawn.
Thank
Hello,
you.
beautiful fellow women and all those who are watching in and listening in. My name is Sharon Ann Rose. I'm joining you from the United States, the western side of it. And my background, goes way back. I think as a young child, I was incredibly sensitive, and it was easy for me to feel deeply through my heart. And I knew, that the heart was the way that I wanted to and was naturally connecting with life. And as I grew, I gravitated to serving women, often women going through big transitions, big changes. It evolved into doing ceremony, ritual, grief work, grief circles, women's circles, etc. And again, what always was the core theme, similar to what you shared, Dawn, was this love of moving through the heart and knowing that if you choose to do that, which most human beings are seeing the benefit of, you're going to feel a lot, and you're going to feel a lot day in and day out. And so it's a place to really return to and tend to and learn the language of. And so I've really, come forward as that in my community and through my work of serving women very, very deeply through sacred rites of passage. So I'm so honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Glad to have you here today. How about Jana?
Hello, everyone. My name is Jana Wellemeyer, and I have a similar connection with Dawn because I too went through the grief recovery method, and it completely changed my way of thinking and helped me out of some of the deepest, darkest spaces that I had been in after losing a stillborn son. I knew that most of us need just that one person to kind of show us that it's okay to move forward, to unburden our hearts. And Dawn was that grateful person for me and helped me step out of, like I said, some of the worst places that I've ever been in. And I followed in her footsteps. And I'm also a specialist now because this is so near and dear to me, how important it is, especially as women, that we have a support circle to help us on all of life's trials and errors. Like everyday things bother and burden us. And it's so important to have somebody to turn to with a, you know what, today's been a rough day. Can we talk? I have also been working a little bit more on the shamanic healing side and more earth healing stuff, because I have found personally that in my healing journey, being able to get outside and get in nature has brought me much better connection, not only with nature itself, but with myself and who I want to be. And so I'm just excited to be here and go over everything with you guys today.
Thank you, Jana. I'm so happy you're here with us. How about Irina?
Hi everyone, I'm Irina Shehovtsov. I'm the founder of Reclaim Your Life, transformational coach, podcast host, and author. My mission is helping women reconnect with themselves after life-changing experiences like divorce, loss, or major transition. My work comes from my own story. After my marriage ended just days before my son was born, I lost myself for a long time. The journey of finding my way back to me led me to discover that happiness isn't something we wait for, it's something we can create from the inside. And right now I'm focused on building a movement around reclaiming ourselves, living fully, pursuing our dreams, and continuing to grow. I'm here because I believe we all have wisdom to share, and I'm looking forward to learning from everyone's experiences as much as contributing my own.
Thank you, Irina. I'm so glad you're with us today. How about Catherine?
Hey everyone, I'm Catherine Cristani. I'm just south of Sydney in Australia, and I am an intuitive healer, inner authority guide, and an author and speaker on conscious leadership and human potential, which is a fancy way of saying I teach people to listen to their intuition and guide themselves back to themselves. And through a lot of the clients that I work with, they have left joy behind. And sometimes when we get so stuck in a dream of what we thought we wanted, we forget to let that go and we forget to grieve that dream. And it stops people from creating new dreams. It's amazing how many women get lost, feel unseen, unheard in their relationships and even their relationship with themselves. So connecting back to joy is such an important aspect of that, because that is what our soul is telling us. Hey, you're on the right track. Keep following that joy and see where it goes. So that's why I really resonated with this topic, because that is what I do. Is like, hey, this isn't bringing joy in my life, or I'm not curious about this. Why am I putting my energy and my time into this anymore?
Thank you, Catherine. I hope all of you see that you put so much light into the world with how you help people navigate the difficulties of life, because our life isn't easy. We're going to go through, these difficult times, and to have people like all of you that can support us during these times is imperative. So thank you for the energy you put into the world. I appreciate all of you. So one of the questions I want to ask is, when you were growing up, what beliefs did you learn about dealing with loss, grief, emotional pain? Because those beliefs that we learn in childhood tend to really create so much of our life, right? And how we move through it. So I would love for you guys to talk about what you learned in childhood. Go ahead, Irina.
I learned that emotions are not talked about, are not really processed or spoken about. It's like whatever happens, you're supposed to wrap it up and move on, carry on with your life. So never, just something that wasn't practiced. And I think it became difficult because then we harbor those emotions and we live with them because emotions, they need to go somewhere. They never, otherwise they get stuck and then they can create a disease if nothing is being done about them. Because emotions, at the end of the day, they are not bad. They're just mechanisms that allow us, they just want to be felt and then let go. they want to be released. And there is no such thing as bad or good emotion. It's just an indicator. And whenever we're not feeling good in our body, it means it's not in alignment with the higher self, and we gotta choose differently. But yeah, what I learned is not to talk about it. That's what
That is so normal. I think probably many of us here can relate to that, right? We're told, to just keep moving on, be strong, you'll feel better within time. But those things set us up for, a lot of problems, because then we don't talk about the way we feel and we push it down, and then we start to engage in other ways to cope because we don't know what to do with all those emotions that are wanting to come out.
I think another good one to go along with that too is, especially as a child, if you have animals, one of the big ones is we replace it. Oh, well, it's fine. You lost your dog. We'll go get you a new one. You lost your goldfish. Here's a new one. Don't worry about the old one. This one should replace it. And I think all too often that gets to be a vicious cycle for us, that we try to find something to cover it up instead of truly heal it or let it out in the open.
Yeah, I would agree, Jana. I mean, it's also like in relationships, we learn at an early age. It's like, oh, well, there's plenty of fish in the sea, so you can just get a new partner, right? But as you and I know, we can't replace something. You can get something new, but it's not going to replace what you lost, because all relationships are unique. So thanks for bringing that up. Sharon?
Yeah, as soon as you ask that question, so I have a short story to share, and I'll preface that with, in childhood, we are so open, we are so sensitive, we are so empathic, we are so porous. And I come from a very, very large Polish immigrant family. And so as a young child, there were so many deaths and losses. When I was in that age range from about 5 to 12, I remember there were easily 2 to 5 people dying per year. And so I got used to going to funerals, and I actually felt a sense of relief because everyone was crying and they were like letting it out and letting it go. And I could feel my heart, opening and breathing and expanding. And at my paternal grandmother's funeral, I was outside and I was skipping because she had, I could hear her voice, and she said, "Don't worry, sweetheart, I'm still here. You're still going to be able to feel me." And one of my older sisters, I'm the youngest of 4 girls, turned to me and she said, "Why are you smiling?" And I was like, "Because I can feel grandma. I can feel her here." And she totally admonished me for feeling light and joyful in the face of what was supposed to look a certain way. And so right in that moment, I quickly, one, shamed myself for feeling something I guess I shouldn't have felt. And that I began to come away with, oh, I guess I really need to be like really heavy and somber. And I began to lose touch with the levity that expressing tears, expressing how much we love someone during loss, and all those things that actually bring us into fullness and aliveness. I quickly learned, oh, hide that, hide that.
Yeah, I think that's very common as well. Like you mentioned, as young children, like we 100% express our emotions, right? Until society teaches us that's not okay to do it, whether it's happy or sad, right? And so then we learn to become someone that we are not, so we're accepted. Catherine.
Yeah, I feel too like this is where we get all that programming, right? Like it's not okay to get angry. Don't cry, just get up and keep going. And, all those sorts of programs about how you should express your emotions start to come in. Or even, I know when I was going through my divorce, even my parents were still trying to put that onto me, where it's like, oh, we don't tell people that you're going through a divorce. to the point that then I had a new partner and everyone thought I just left my husband 5 minutes ago and I've been separated nearly a year, like because they were so much of like, oh, we don't tell people those things. Whereas the flip side of that, it's like, actually, no, when you don't tell people things, then you're blocking your throat chakra. And then all of a sudden you can't express yourself and be authentically you. So all these kind of programs that come in from that childhood, even, I had the good girl program, like, how, keep getting the good grades, keep getting the good grades. Doesn't matter that you're stressed out and you're unfulfilled and you're having a breakdown. It's okay. You came top of your class. And it's like, well, that wasn't really worth the payoff. So, we've got those kinds of conditions that come in as well. And all of a sudden, our idea of what success is has been shifted from childhood. Our success is suddenly measured in grades or, the praise that we get rather than the feeling that we have in ourselves. And that then slips into that materialistic thing. Oh, I've got to, this is what my life needs to look like. I've got to tick all these boxes. But joy is never mentioned in there, or happiness is never mentioned, or how you want to show up is never mentioned either. This is just, here's your checklist, you need to meet these. And then you do, and you still feel as empty as you did when you started. So this is, where I found a lot of those kind of conditionings come in. And not because my parents weren't doing the best they could, but that's how they were brought up, and they were brought up in that generation of children should be seen and not heard as well. I wasn't brought up as much that way, but there was still that expectation that you just went and did your own thing. And in contrast, I'm still shaking that. Like my son can be loud and noisy and everything, and I have to catch myself before you let those programs come in too. So that's what I've found from childhood is where all those beautiful conditionings and belief systems like to kick in.
Thank you for sharing that. And it kind of plays into one of the questions I want to ask everybody is, how are these beliefs? Because we can work really hard on changing our beliefs. And as you talked about, Catherine, they can creep back in those behaviors, right? Especially when we're stressed. So how are they no longer serving us? Like, what is the result of subscribing to these beliefs? Or what was the result if you've changed the beliefs?
But what used to work when we were little no longer can work because it was safe or maybe expected, and those limiting beliefs, if not removed, can cause tremendous damage, and we're not even gonna know what is happening because on the surface, let's say we are doing everything right, let's say we cannot get a promotion at work, we are fulfilling, passing through all the milestones, but the subconscious programming is still there. It's still running our experience. The 95%, 5% is the conscious and 95 is the subconscious. And when we are not aware, we could be stuck with difficulties or getting the same partner into our experience, seemingly doing everything right, but not getting through. So it's important to release the limiting decisions that we made at some point in the past and replace them with something more better, empowering. So timeline therapy work, that's what I do. And or there are many other, there are theta healing, that are many other modalities that allow us to dig through the subconscious and to have the ability to rewire those beliefs that are no longer serving us.
Thank you, Irina.
I would have to agree that there are so many of them that we just have to let go. I mean, I know in my personal experience, most of my beliefs came from, my upbringing, my parents, my grandparents, and they stifled who I was as a person and everything that I hoped to be because I had to fit their ideals or what they thought my life should be. And so most of those beliefs I had to shed and get rid of and find what it is that I want to be and who I want to be moving forward and what I want to share with my kids and what I want them to be. You mentioned, having, kids are not supposed to be heard, and you have to catch yourself at times tell, oh, nope, I can't tell you that. I don't know how many times a day I do the same thing where it's, I try to parent them like I was told, but then it's like, no, I can't do that. This is a new age. You know what? You tell me how you feel. Let's feel those emotions. Tell me what's bothering you. There's just so much that we literally, I believe, have to kind of reprogram our entire lives to our own belief system.
Yeah, Jen, I would agree with that. I mean, I remember growing up, I was always told I was too sensitive. And I don't know if you heard that, Sharon, as well, but it kept me from talking about how I felt. And so as I was growing up and very painful things were happening, I just kept suppressing them. And eventually I ended up divorced at the age of 30, and I couldn't figure out why I ended up divorced until I started doing some really deep reflection on, my belief systems and the pain that I'd been holding inside because I had been told I was too sensitive. So I'd just been pushing it down instead of letting those emotions flow through me and process them. And it came out as anger in my marriage. So I'm curious, Sharon, were you told that you were too sensitive when you were growing up?
I think I tried in that example that I had shared. I hid my sensitivity really, really early on. And so I love this question and what others have shared so far because it's allowing me to also reframe, so many of the beliefs I carried forward from a young age were all about how can I stay safe? What do I have to do to stay safe? Which also then left me, and this is so common for so many women. We're programmed this way to be very externally referenced, which we can never be safe if we're externally referenced because that whole belief structure of may I please someone, may I try to get it right, may all those things we'll never be able to. It's a losing path. But once we allow those beliefs to soften or also we just say, is that my belief or is it somebody and something outside of me who shared that belief with me? Then we get internally referenced. And then our beliefs I don't even know if I use beliefs anymore because when I am really internally referenced, it's more of just this ongoing dialogue of how do I feel about that now? And then I feel something and I'm like, do I want to do that? Or don't I? And so then it just becomes this inner conversation versus beliefs often feel quite hardened to me and not very malleable. And when I go into that more internal referencing and support women to do that, there's this whole landscape of much more about our own meanings on life and what we value and what we treasure than what we believe. And I feel like when we move from what we were brought what was conditioned in our childhood, we begin to soften and it becomes way more of a living experience than a structured passed on experience that's all hard and curmudgeony and all of that.
I love that, not looking so much at the beliefs, but how does this feel inside? What do I want? This year my words are soul aligned. And so I measure everything up to those words. Does this align with my soul or not? If this doesn't feel right, then I'm not going to do this because for many years I did do things that weren't aligned with me. And then I paid the consequences, right? Catherine.
Yeah, I feel I resonate with everybody. But also, like I was touching upon before, because I wanted to be the good girl and, get all the good grades and get all the praise. So then off I went into adulthood with my list of this is what I want my life to look like. I want to have a business, I want to have the house and the marriage and the, 2.3 children or whatever the diagnostic the statistic is these days, And then then I had the marriage and I was so numb in it that, I was doing things I wouldn't normally do. So I'm like, hang on a minute, I'm not actually happy here. So I had to learn how to step out of that. I built the business up with my business partner, very successful, still wasn't feeling happy or anything. And then when I stepped out of my marriage and truly stepped into myself, then I attracted my husband. But what I realized I was doing was I was putting all my energy into the business to avoid going home to my marriage. And now that I was happy with my relationship, my business partnership started to fall apart because I could see all the cracks there because I wasn't prepared to put my whole life into it. But again, it was this deep yearning of I'm meant to be doing something more. I'm meant to do something more. So on paper, like my life looked amazing and everyone would say like, oh, people are jealous of you, which now I've learned is such a bad thing, but energetically. But at the same time, I wasn't jealous of me. I was constantly tired and burnt out and had the panic attacks and all those sorts of things. And it was only when I stepped back and went, actually, no, I need to create the life that I want and start to take the steps towards that. And even now, I tell my clients, like, if you want to live in a shack on the beach and that is like your happiest, joyous thing, you can live on a shack on the beach. It doesn't matter if you have a 6 or 7 figure business. You live how you would like to live and then use that money to do other things. Trust, what feels right for you. And if you want that shack on the beach, have the shack on the beach. Why not?
Yeah, I love that story because I think, especially as women, we begin to feel overwhelmed and burnt out because we're trying to care for everyone and everything. We're natural caregivers and we're trying to live up to something, right? These beliefs that we have to be, have the career or we have to be the best mom and, be going to all the school meetings and taking our kids to sports every day and all these things, right? Have to have the perfect house. And it's overwhelming. It ends up exhausting us. And these things come from, these beliefs, like we've talked about, that we learn early in life. And, all the unhealed pain adds to us trying to be something that we aren't. And so we, present ourselves with this mask on. And it's not easy to take that mask off because there's always the worry, are we safe? Will we be loved? And so, we struggle with that, most of us women. So I'd love for you guys to talk about like a mask that you have worn during your life and that you were finally able to take off so that people could see the real you.
Actually written about it in my latest book, Woman Behind the Roles. How through the roles that we wear as we live a life, being a caregiver, being a mother, being an employee, being somebody else's wife, how through wearing those different roles, we lose pieces of ourselves little by little. And it's not something that you notice, nobody comes and rings the bell. By the way, you lost this part of you. It kind of happens behind the scenes seamlessly, one decision, one unanswered question, or one something that, oh, it's not worth fighting over, let's sweep this under the rug. Little by little, we lose pieces of ourselves through the roles that we wear. And yes, we have different, how we interact with our friends versus how we interact with our kids or how we interact at work. We always have these different masks. And sometimes it's difficult because then you lose sense of who you are because you wear so many titles. It's like a woman wearing so many hats. You're a cook, you're a driver, you're this, that, and the other. And who are you underneath all that? Do you still remember? Because then we get disconnected from the person that we are inside and we can get lost. Because who are you without those titles? Who are you without those roles? You are a person. You didn't just come here to have this one role. You are so much bigger than that. There are so many aspects of you, and I think oftentimes we forget them. And the only way to discover is, again, listen to your own inner voice, to your intuition, because we all have answers inside of us, but because of our monkey brain and because of speed of life, oftentimes it's difficult to tune in and to listen to that wisdom that we have for ourselves.
I would agree. It's really easy, and it is a slow process that we lose ourselves. I remember when I got a divorce at the age of 30, my therapist asked me, "Well, who are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm a mom and I'm a nurse and I'm a wife." He said, "No, no, no. Who are you?" And I said, "I don't know. I'm those things." And he said, "No, no, no. Those are the roles you play." Like I literally at the age of 30 didn't know who I was. And I think back and I feel a great sense of sadness, but that has changed. But yeah, I didn't realize I'd lost myself in all those roles.
I
I
think one
lost
of the biggest.
myself too. That's how everything
No,
came
go
about.
ahead. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to like I have lost myself as well, and that's how all the everything that followed, because I became a single parent to a newborn and a 5-year-old, and also I was like someone else's mom, someone else's spouse, but who I was, I no longer knew. That kind of started the journey of rediscovery.
Me too. Jana?
Yeah, same thing. I mean, I think that's what puts us all on our own trajectory to a healing path of some sort. I know one of the biggest ones that I have had to lose is that of people pleasing, because, like you said, mentioned with trying to get the best grades, trying to get the attaboy from the mom and dad, or any of that kind of stuff. That's what I've spent most of my life chasing, especially from parents, or, just trying to get to where, yes, somebody could tell me that I was doing a good job, and you never hear that. And when you don't hear that, you kind of give up because you don't think you're ever going to be good enough, do good enough, make the best business decision, have the best husband, any of that stuff. And I just finally had to take that hat off and say, who am I really trying to please in this world? Like anything I do, none of these people are happy with it. I need to find something that makes me happy, because none of this stuff is making me happy. Everything is miserable for me because I'm not pleasing myself and enjoying my own life. So I would say definitely people pleasing is one of the biggest masks.
Yeah, I think that's a big one for many people because, we want people to be happy with us. We don't want to lose people in our life. And so we try to do what we think that they would want us to do, but that doesn't honor us.
Yeah, I can so relate to that. It's been a lifelong journey and it's a slippery one. And I think one of the other masks that presented, in the beginning, it presented really lovely, but it was the peacekeeper. And, I could go into a room with my family, both as a child, of just like, how can literally, now that I'm older, I could see the way I was trying to track the unrest or the disagreements and just try to bring everyone together to make everybody happy. And so that peacekeeper and pleaser go really close together. And what I had to do was actually be okay with people disagreeing and being in presence to that. And my whole body, being sensitive, it was just like my nervous system would literally feel like it wanted to jump out of my own skin. It was so uncomfortable. And then eventually realizing I had my husband's really good at being like, hey, hon, we don't have to agree. And I'm like, what? We don't? I'm so much better at that now. And I actually can feel I'm doing well when I really disagree with people who I love and say, yeah, nah, that's not going to work for me, or no, thank you. I'm going to go off in this direction. And again, these masks are tricky because they can have good qualities. Like being a peacekeeper is a really good quality, but when you're turning it in on yourself and not allowing the honesty and the authenticity of what you actually need in that moment to be more internally referenced and in touch with who you are and how you tick and talk, then it becomes a detriment, and then it becomes a false mask.
Thank you, Sharon. I love how you talk about, it is a positive quality, but it can be to your detriment, right? When you're putting on that mask and you're choosing to not be authentic and genuine. So thank you for bringing that up.
I resonate with everything. But also being the fixer and keeping on that mask, like I'm happy. everything in my life is perfect. Even though on the inside I am dying and I'm crying in the shower every morning, I'm happy. It's okay. And you can only do that for so long, and then you go numb. Like, you numb your emotions, you numb who you are. Like, I literally went numb. Like, I literally started losing feeling because I was numbing myself to show up for something that wasn't aligned. And, I find that those masks, you can only keep them on so long, and then your body will go into dis-ease. And this is what a lot of people like will blame it on, oh, I suddenly got a sore shoulder, or, I've got these lung problems or whatever it is. I'm like, well, your lungs, because you're not grieving what you need to grieve. Your shoulder, which one is it? You're right. Okay, well, where do you feel like you're a financial burden? So there's all these things that our body has this wisdom hidden underneath it. And you can only keep those masks on for so long before it starts to come out like that. But definitely, I was the fixer. I wanted to come in and fix everything and everyone. Even my first husband was a bit of a fixer-upper, but I could do it. It was okay, until it wasn't. So, definitely resonate with the peacekeeper as well. Like, I definitely walked around going, "Oh, I'm not going to rock the boat. I'm not gonna make anyone unhappy." And, doing that people pleasing as well. Like, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to keep doing it. But I was actually a little bit of a rebel at the same time, and would pretend I was doing all of those things. And then in the background, go do what I wanted anyway. So it was like there was two aspects of me that were coming because I put on different masks depending on what I needed to be in the situation. But like I said, you can only do that for so long before your body starts to give you away too.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely, Catherine. I mean, that's kind of what I was talking about at the beginning when I introduced myself. I was noticing with all my patients as a nurse that people's bodies were reacting to the masks that they were wearing, the losses they were going through. Like, our body remembers everything, and it can only hold so much. I mean, it is a magical machine, but we have to tend to it. And part of that is tending to our emotions, right? And all the things that happen in our lives. So I want to talk a little bit about, because when we unburden our heart, when we allow our emotions, then we can get to that space of joy. So I would love everybody to talk about joy. Like, what does it mean to you? How do you get to find your own joy? How does it show up in your life?
Okay. I actually wrote a book about this called The Gift Inside.
Love that.
It's little 12 habits that we can practice to discover our joy. But personally, for me, I believe practicing 10 minutes of joy. Do something that sets your soul on fire on a day-to-day basis. Do something that makes your heart shine. Not because it brings money, not because somebody needs to do something, but because it brings you joy. It's something for you to look forward to, whether it's baking, running, gardening. For me, it's singing, and it's been such a greater, so much better than any therapy could do for me, because it activates the other part of my brain, not just my analytical part, but also my creative side. And again, allows for the throat chakra to open up and sing better. Because for years when I was growing up, I forgot to mention how you guys were saying about the roles. I never expressed how I really felt. Always like I didn't want to cause trouble. I wanted to be quiet. So that allowed also for that. Maybe it's still there, but it's so much better now than what it used to be, because of singing, because of allowing myself to open up. And so do something that sets your soul on fire. That's my recipe for bringing joy just for yourself.
I love that. I used to look at my life and think, well, joy has to be some huge thing. And I've realized over the years, it's those little moments. Like, every night when I go to bed, I lay my head on the pillow and I think about what I'm grateful for, what I accomplished during the day, or what I'm proud of, and what brought me joy. And oftentimes what brought me joy is I spent some time with my dog and my husband tonight. And it was just, we were together, and it was just, we weren't doing anything special, but that just brought me joy. And so I see it as all those little things. It doesn't have to be something big, like a big vacation. It's those little moments in life where we enjoy something, like singing, going for a walk, whatever it is.
I love that you mentioned singing and getting creative, because I think that's one of my biggest outlets in terms of joy. For me, first, it was hard to define, what does joy mean to me? And I've had clients ask me this multiple times, I can't define it. I can't define it. And it's really specific to each individual person. What brings me joy may not be what brings you joy. So I try to often tell them, what is it that makes you actually slow down your breathing? What, leave your shoulders from your neck? Like, what makes the tension leave your body and make you feel like you're just relaxed and can be in this moment? If that's sitting outside listening to the creek or listening to the birds, enjoy that. If it's spending time at the park with your kids, by all means, do that. Just make it very unique to you, and don't be ashamed to do it. Like for me, I love playing with yarn. It's some of my happiest times. And so just find something unique to you and stick with it. If you can share with, like Dawn said, it's time with her dog or time with her husband, like that's even a bigger bonus, because that probably brings both joy to both your pup and to your husband too. So I love that.
Thank you, Jana.
Yes, I too resonate with all these things shared. And so when you asked that question right away, I went to, oh, for me, joy is a feeling. It's a feeling. And certainly it can get ignited. And I too am a like do the small things kind of gal. And, I love nature. So anything like a bird singing in the morning when I hear that first bird as I'm starting to wake up, or the wind when I feel it across my skin, or sunrise, sunset, like those moments are so filled with joy. And over the years, as I've been cultivating this deeper, richer relationship with, who am I and what brings me most alive, joy became a relationship. And I love relationships. So it was one that I wanted to cultivate and then also learn about it, like ask it questions like, joy, what can I do to help bring you more into my life? And what do you feel like? What do you sound like? All those things. And so ultimately what I've been now learning is I get to be the holder of joy. It's not dependent on my actions, though my actions can ignite it. And so I've been practicing, especially when I'm in tough conversations or not feeling my best, to say, hey, Joy, I know you're here, aren't you? Like, remind me how to let you in and just fill up my whole being, so that that feeling is something I can choose. I can tap into it and let it be here no matter what the circumstances are. And that's super joyful for me.
I love that, Sharon, talking about your relationship with joy. And, it is a choice. It's not that our life is perfect. It's not that everybody's going to show up, and be nice to us and kind and, cooperative. It's we choose to see the joy in our life. It's always a choice. So thank you for that reminder.
I feel for me too, it's been learning that joy shifts and changes. Like the things that brought you joy, last month or a few minutes ago don't necessarily bring you joy right here, right now. And sometimes people are like, oh, but there were the things I used to do. It's like, but you've changed. So those things aren't going to resonate anymore. And my simple ritual is making a cup of tea and actually drinking it warm. Like that's such a big thing as a mum, right? Actually getting to have it while it's still hot. But even like especially when I left my first marriage, it was learning to find those aspects that I'd given away of myself that I felt I couldn't have anymore because it felt selfish, rather than self-full. And I feel, especially as a mom, as like women, we always have that giver kind of instinct or that nurturer thing, and we forget to nurture ourselves. So we forget to fill up our cup, like Shannon was saying, we forget that when our cup is full, actually that joy can radiate and go other places. And I'm so with the little moments as well. Like I'll just be happily watching a little ladybug or a bee on a flower and just get those tears of alignment because you're just fully present in that moment. And that just allows that joy to grow. And I feel that happiness is different to joy, whereas happiness can be more that, just that contentness in your life. And whereas we've been taught that that bliss state is the happiness, happiness isn't. It's that you just feel content and at peace in that moment. Whereas joy, like Shannon said so beautifully, is that relationship where you can pull it back in and you can shift it. I even have this song on my Spotify playlist, Could Decide to Be Happy, because she's like, I prayed and I just decided to shift it. And I was like, yes. So when I need to, sometimes I listen to that and remember that, yes, sometimes it is hard to decide to be happy and it can be that mask that we end up putting on over the top of that. But it's actually asking yourself in that moment, where can I come back to me and where can I find my joy again? And how can I step out of that feeling that I've been stuck in and allow myself to be more of myself again so I can allow the joy to come back in.
Such great wisdom, Catherine. Thank you. I love that you brought up a cup of tea because I have a cup of tea every morning, which brings me a great deal of joy. But something I even love more is we have the cutest little tea shop, like 2 blocks from my house. So I walk over there and I take my computer and I sit there and I have my tea. And I don't know, there's just something about it. It's peaceful, it's joyful, like it's something I do for me. And, all of you brought that up is that it's important, those self-care things that we do for ourselves that remind us of who we are, right? That's just such an important aspect of our life. So I want us all to leave, like the listeners, with something today, like people who are struggling, things that are weighing on their heart or heavy in their life. They really want to find joy again. They want to get to that space where they can be themselves and they can find the things they're grateful for in their life and find the joy. Like, what is one piece of wisdom that you would share with them?
Just like you said, practicing gratitude, I think, is important. Even when you're in a dark place, even when you notice things that are not working, focus your attention on the things that are working, because where attention goes, energy flows. So you might notice not just 3 things, but maybe 20, 15 things that are working. When you notice something beautiful, like a sunrise, if you're into sunrises or sunsets, take a picture with your mental computer and really absorb the feeling. Be really present to the situation, who you are in it, and how you're feeling on the inside, and record it for your own benefit. So that's how you can, because practicing gratitude, being present is important because life is so fast paced. And if we don't intentionally slow down, we might notice the whole day has passed and what did we do? We don't have any recollection if we don't make those intentional pauses during a day. Maybe put a reminder on your phone and put a little sentence or a word that can come and can remind you, what does presence mean, or what does joy mean to you, and pause for just 1 minute in your day and focus on that word, what it means to you.
That's so important, Irina, because you're right. We end up so busy in our lives that it's hard to pause sometimes. It's hard to remember that we need to be in the present moment. Many times we're thinking about the past and wishing we could change it. We're thinking about our worries for the future, and we're missing all those things that happen. Maybe it's our kids, coming up to us and they want to give us something that they made, but we're so busy either in our life or in our minds that we don't really take in how they're showing up, or somebody else, or like you said, a sunset or a flower. But when we can pause and be present, there's so much joy in those moments.
I would say one of the biggest helpers for myself, especially, was being intentional. If you're really wanting to find more joy and bring more good into your life, it really is about focusing on what's intentional and important to you and what you want to see in the changes. So be intentional with your time. If you only have 10 minutes, okay, make that cup of tea, sit down, read those affirmations, do what it is that's important to you to help bring your spirits up, and be intentional with all 10 minutes. Don't give it just 5 and then move on and help the kids or do something else. Make sure that you set aside that time for you and be intentional with it.
I would agree with that, Jana. I know that's something I struggle with. I mean, like a couple weeks ago, I decided I was going to take all of Friday off. And lo and behold, the universe kept trying to test me because I kept having people contact me and say, "Oh, can I have an appointment with you on Friday?" I had two people, and I'm like, "Oh," and it was so hard, but I said no because I wanted to say yes to myself. And it was amazing, just the feeling like, you know what? I honored my needs today, and I am a better person, you know, today because of that. I can show up as the best version of myself versus feeling frustrated because I didn't stand up for what I needed.
I love that, Dawn. And it's making me think of what I would share is emptying out versus putting in. And I think in our culture, sometimes right now, there's so much coming at us. And so going back to what the title of this conversation is, which is Unburdening Our Hearts. And sometimes we think like we want to come at joy, but often it's about like letting other things go, emptying out so that the joy that is so inherent to us as human beings will then just be able to have room to like rise up and fill us out. And so I think even speaking about what you shared, Dawn, of like an evening ritual, like something where we just really protect the emptiness, the opportunity to say, these are the things I'm letting go of. These are the things that today were just too much, too hard. I cannot do these. I cannot like face this alone. I cannot try to figure this out. And just laying that down. And then like when you wake up in the morning, there's more space. There's more emptiness that will then naturally fill up because that's what we do.
That's a beautiful reminder, Sharon, because, you know, when we go to bed with all this heaviness on our heart and in our mind, then we wake up and it's still there. If we can let it go before we drift off to sleep, then we wake up in a different space. We can start the day with new energy without carrying forward the heaviness from the prior day.
I love all these. I love it. My biggest thing is start the day spend doing something for you because then it feels like you've honored yourself through the rest of the day and you're not putting yourself to the side because I know I'm guilty of that. Oh, I know I need to do that for myself, but I'll just push that to the side. I know I need to do my workout, but it's more important I feed my child. I know I need to do that, but I'll do that instead. And then by the time you finally get around to doing that thing for yourself, you're so exhausted and tired that you just want to sleep or have a nap or something. And that could be something you do for yourself too. Don't get me wrong. I have had so many examples where my body's like, you need to rest. And I rested. And then I woke up, I'm like, oh, someone booked in. Look, I didn't do anything except went to sleep. So start your day doing something small. It might be the gratitude and affirmations. It might be, making your cup of tea. It might even be just sitting outside for a minute and having a breath. I do that often. I'll just sit on this little deck we have and just spend a few moments just looking at the trees and having those moments where I'm like, okay, I am here, I am present, I am breathing, let's go. I've got enough now. I can go through the day. So take those moments at the start or work on something you're passionate about. That's the other thing, like it doesn't, if there's a little passion project you have, how often do you put that to the end of the day and then you get home from work and you're exhausted and then you just don't want to look at it? It might be your yarn that you start the day with, like just having a little bit of a play with it. It might be putting some music on. It might be editing a podcast or writing your book or something, but you've done it for you. And that's the point. Don't discount those moments for you. Put them in your diary, whatever you need to do to honor them, make it as an appointment. Have something there that makes sure you spend that time with you.
Thank you. I love those insights and that wisdom that will be helpful to so many people. So, since we were talking about letting go of things, what is one thing that all of us individually want to let go of today? I know it's different time zones for all of us, but if there's one thing you can think of that you're going to let go of tonight before you go to bed, what would that be?
Let go of self-doubt.
Good one. I love that.
I would say forgiveness for those with crossing paths, that kind of take your energy the wrong way, just a forgiveness.
I love that one as well.
I would say judgment of others, and absolutely judgment of myself.
I'm with you on that one.
Mm.
I would agree. That's what I'm going to let go of as well.
Control, thinking I can control the outcomes of everything and the situation. You can't.
That's a hard one, isn't it?
I'm letting go of that too.
Yeah,
Oh,
me too. No matter how hard we work, that one could be really difficult. Well, I want to bring Sophia back on, but I want to thank each of you, Sharon, Catherine, Irina, and Jana, for being here today and for sharing your heart and your wisdom and your light with all of us today and all the listeners. I'm really honored that you were here with me.
Thank you, Dawn, and yes, thank you, Sharon and Irina and Catherine and Jenna, for joining us for this incredible wisdom circle. And Dawn, may I ask you, and I agree, ditto to everyone about what we're letting go of, but is there anything else in particular that you wish to let go of today?
I wish to let go of the need to, like there's certain things I didn't get done today that I really wanted to get done. So I want to let go of that feeling like I didn't accomplish what I needed to.
Yeah. I love that, because that happens to a lot of people, especially women and entrepreneurs. You go to bed and you go, I've got nothing done. But yet there's so much that we did achieve and things. And it's certainly one way to, unburden your heart and just to experience the joy in the little things, like the cup of tea on your balcony or in the tea shop. Love that. So thank you ever so much. For anyone out there who is watching or listening to the live or the replay, do yourself a favor and go grab a cup of tea or coffee or whatever it is and go sit in nature for a couple of minutes. That's all. And just relax. Experience the joy of yourself being in nature. And while you're there, click on the links below and reach out to these amazing women, and also check out everything that Sacred You has to offer. We've got many more wisdom circles coming up and so much more on offer too. And wherever you are in the world, let the stuff go that we no longer need, unburden your heart and come back to joy, which, like I said at the beginning, to me is our purpose of life, is to experience joy in everything we do. So thank you ever so much for joining us, and we will see everyone next time.